going on, ladies and gents, and welcome to DigiTrip. We're back with another episode of Raid Party. I'm Marshall, with me is Mike, or Vironic. We are here today to kind of do a follow-up video.
This is General Kenobi, by the way.
Yeah, General Kenobi, forgot to introduce him. So we're here to talk about our next episode of Raid Party. And to do that, we figured that we would follow up with what we were talking about a little bit of last week. We were talking about Battle Royales primarily and how they're kind of taking over the industry and, you know, what the game industry may be going in, what direction it's going to go into. But this time we're here to talk about something that some people are afraid is going to go away. Another thing that people are hoping is going to stay. That is single-player games and their impact that they had. And the reason why I think that single-player games right now is a good topic is because of absolutely how well God of War is doing.
Right. And like we touched a little bit on it last time, we were kind of all over the place with it. So we want to be a little more specific and to the point with this one. Try not to ramble as much, but yeah, I think single player games are a good thing to talk about right now because we went through this long period of time where no games had single player. It was, well, I mean, they had single player, but that wasn't the focus. The main focus, everyone was trying to do multiplayer because multiplayer was this big thing. Because if you really think about it, we haven't had multiplayer for even that long. The PS2 had multiplayer back in, what, like 2005, 6?
Yeah.
But it wasn't huge.
Xbox Live really
I'm about to say
blew up.
Xbox, the original Xbox Live, which came out in late 2006, early 2000. No, the original Xbox came out in like 2000. No.
Because Halo 1 came out in 2001.
Did it?
Yeah. Which means that the Xbox either came out in 2001. I think it had to because Halo.
No. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
360 came out in like
right,
06.
but Halo 2 was what launched multiplayer like that, right?
Yeah. I mean,
but Halo 2 didn't come out until 2004, something around there.
Something like that.
So like multiplayer. The point of it is multiplayer didn't really come out until like the early 2000s, like heading towards the mid 2000s.
Yeah, exactly.
And then multiplayer didn't get huge like that, like where everybody wanted it, and it was like easily accessible to everyone until the 360. Mm-hmm. The Xbox 360 is what put like multiplayer gaming on the map when you had games like Halo 2, Halo 3, then Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1, Modern Warfare, was the one that like everybody had.
Call of Duty 4.
Yep. And COD 4 is what like started this whole, pretty much like the multiplayer craze was like at its peak at that point, and everybody had to have COD 4. And pretty much everything that we know about multiplayer now today started with like that generation, COD 4. Like needing a headset because you need to hear where people are coming from, like being immersed in gaming like that, really started with the 360.
Yep.
So,
and so
sit down already.
I know, you're all over the place.
Here you go, bud.
And so now, you know, that means that with the focus on games going more and more towards multiplayer, single-player games are really starting to kind of get pushed off to the side of it.
And it had been, we're in 2018, and the rise of that was like 2004, 2005, we figured. So for about a little less than 10 years, we haven't had a big push in multiplayer, or single-player games. I mean, mind you, of course, we've had good ones.
Yeah, we get the one-hit wonders.
Yeah.
You get your Uncharted, you know, 3 games, 1 through 3,
yeah.
And then you get your Last of Us, and then the God of War game, which is funny also. Most of the great single-player games are either on Sony,
pretty much,
or Nintendo.
Well, definitely right now, Xbox does not have any single-player games that are really doing anything for them. And I will attribute that to the fact that Xbox was really the one that launched multiplayer games. When they had Halo, and when COD was never exclusive to Xbox, but it was an exclusive deal where COD Xbox got all the COD stuff first.
Yeah. And Call of Duty really kind of felt like an Xbox
game. It's like an Xbox game. And ever since then, they pretty much put all the eggs in the basket of multiplayer. So they don't really have any single player games that like stand out. It's definitely pretty much Sony with like Uncharted, and I even think what the Tomb Raider game was it wasn't a Sony exclusive, right? But it was, or it was for a little bit, something like that, right?
Yeah. So the original Tomb Raider was only on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
Because you have to remember that for a lot of these games, a lot of these single player games, they didn't really have the ability to run on like the other systems, right? Metal Gear Solid was really a Sony exclusive.
It was.
Because of...
Until recently.
Yeah.
I think it was, 5 or 4 that it came out?
Yeah, and it was really because of the hardware that you had at the time of, like, the PS2 and things like that. Sony was really the only one that had the ability to handle it until eventually the Xbox came along. But even so, I don't think Microsoft... Like, playing Metal Gear never felt good on an Xbox controller.
When I think of, like, single-player games, I think of 2 things. I think of the late 90s to early 2000s, and I think of PlayStation. Like, you had the best single-player games. You had freaking all the Grand Theft Autos. Like, up until recently, I always played Grand Theft Auto on PlayStation.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I played all of those. Actually, you know what? Now I'm thinking about it. Xbox, the original Xbox, and I guess 360 had Ninja Gaiden.
Ninja Gaiden was fun.
Ninja Gaiden was phenomenal.
Ninja Gaiden is a lot of fun. And talking about Ninja Gaiden, there's also a game that you're playing a lot of Nier Automata.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in a second. One thing that I want to cover on is, do you think that Call of Duty, we'll go with them, is making the right choice with this rumor that they're getting rid of their single player when something like God of War just came out and it blew everyone's mind? Like, do you think that Call of Duty should continue to have a single player campaign in it, or do you think that this is a better step to instead replace it with the BR mode that you think that they're doing it for?
So, like I said, last week we touched on this a little bit, and we probably shouldn't have went as far as into detail as we did.
Yeah.
But specifically speaking on that, I think yes and no. I don't think they should ever get rid of single player because that is like a selling point for certain people.
Yeah, and it's a foundation to get started on.
Like, if for instance, my dad is not going to sit there and play multiplayer like that, if at all. But he loves shooters. And he'll sit through the campaign of a shooter.
Yeah.
And he'd enjoy it. He's not going to jump on multiplayer. My dad's not going to care about that.
Yeah.
So, I think for those specific people, it should be there. However, I think this is kind of like the right move for Call of Duty. Like, just what Call of Duty is, it's the multiplayer aspect that really drives for them.
And they have been weaning people off of... Like, the campaigns have been getting shorter and shorter.
I didn't play... I heard World War II's campaign was actually pretty good. I didn't play it. I played like 3 missions and didn't play anything after that. I didn't finish Black Ops 3's storyline. I heard it was actually pretty decent, but again, it didn't grab me. The last story that I played that like grabbed me like that was Ghost. Black Ops 2's story was good as well, but that wasn't the last one. Ghost storyline was amazing. Like, I didn't stop playing it. I think what they should do is separate it. Kind of do like... If you think of certain games like Medal of Honor, or you think of Ghost Recon, recently they have delved into going multiplayer, and it hasn't worked out very well for them. But if you think of
Medal of Honor,
but if you think of their single player games, or their single player storyline, great.
Yeah.
So if Call of Duty were to do something like that, where they split it, even if they don't call the single player game Call of Duty, but you know it's made by the people who made Call of Duty, maybe they'll go somewhere like that. They'll call it something else. They'll make Call of Duty simply this, I won't even say sandbox, it's not sandbox at all, but like this specific multiplayer
arena shooter kind of.
Right. Yeah. I could see them doing something like that.
I think, it's a little sad to see that Call of Duty is kind of getting rid of its single player because, I mean, as over the top and ridiculous that it was, Call of Duty originally made a name for itself in the single player market, and so did Halo.
Yeah.
And so did so many of these games now that are transitioning completely into multiplayer. Like, I don't know, like, it at least...
But see, the thing is, they need people to keep playing their game, and they need the thing that gives game longevity is multiplayer. People will play multiplayer for hours, whereas you'll play the campaign and you'll stop playing the campaign. Even if you do it on every difficulty, you stop playing the campaign.
And I think that is kind of the trend of where games are going because they want to do a games as services. Idea. And I'm sure everyone's heard that term before. Games as services. That's what Electronic Arts and their terrible asses always are trying to push. Every game has to be a service now. We can't just make a game that's one and done and then that's it. We need to have something that's going to last for an entire year. That way, when the next one comes rolling around, we'll just be able to, sell that one and then all the multiplayer DLC that goes along with it. And I think that's unfortunate because you can make and craft a really good single player game that has amazing stories that makes you want to go back to it. I played The Last of Us like 3 or 4 times.
I've never actually played The Last of Us.
You need to.
I know. I've heard how good it is. I know what it is.
Yeah.
I just didn't play Last of Us because at the time that The Last of Us came out, 1, I didn't own a PlayStation, and 2, I was just stuck on multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like perfect for this because I was one of those people that multiplayer games were it for me. Although I will say, like, one of the last single player games that I played that I thoroughly enjoyed was Far Cry.
Yeah.
And I'm specifically talking about Far Cry 3. I didn't play 4. I didn't play Primal. I played a little bit of 4. I didn't play Primal. And this new one I heard is pretty good. But, like, Far Cry 3 was great. Like, I played the crap out of Far Cry 3.
Oh my god. Far Cry 3 is phenomenal. My favorite mission always will be where you're burning down the weed farm. That will leave an imprint in my mind forever.
They really did a good job with that.
Yeah.
I think right now we're kind of pushing into a market where single player games are coming back. Because if you look at it right now, we've actually had quite a few single-player games come out that is pretty reminiscent of the late 90s to early 2000s. Far Cry 5 just came out.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have
God of War.
Which
started in like 2002 or 3.
Right. Last of Us 2 is coming out. We've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
And Doom.
Which is a complete retro throwback return.
Nier Automata, which we mentioned a little bit earlier that he made me play, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. Like, there's a trend right now that's coming back. Oh, and I forgot to name the biggest thing. Nintendo is back on top. And Nintendo had a flop with the Wii U. The Wii was very popular simply because it was something innovative and new. But if you think about it, the Wii didn't have anything on it that made people was like, oh my god,
didn't last very long.
Right.
It was like a quick trend, and then
it was a gimmick type of a thing. It wasn't a console. Like, it was just a gimmick thing. It was cool.
And it's funny because when I worked at GameStop, it was just nothing but shovelware.
Right.
For the Wii, like there were
Wii Fit, the Wii board, like it was just.
There were all these little gimmicks, and then there were all these games that just nobody was gonna play.
Yeah. So the Wii literally had nothing on it that we wanted to play. Like, there was 2 games that I played on the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
There was.
Hi.
There was 2 games that I played on the Wii. Actually, no, 3. So the Wii came with Wii Sports. Wii Sports was phenomenal.
Oh my god.
Wii Sports was fun.
I would spike the shit out of that tennis ball.
I played it so much because I wanted to bowl a perfect in bowling.
Yeah.
Tennis was so much fun.
Yeah.
Baseball was fun too, actually.
Yes.
That whole thing was fun. And then the mini games were cool. And it was like cool to that was the most I ever played with like friends, like in person for a console. So that was cool.
Did you ever slap anybody in the face?
No, I never ended up doing that. I never threw it into TV or anything.
I don't know how people managed to throw it into the TV.
I didn't even use the risk. I don't know how people did that.
Yeah.
And then I also played Mario Goes to the Olympic Games or whatever that was called.
Oh yeah.
That game was also really fun. But I mean, other than that, there was like nothing. Yeah. It wasn't a Nintendo console. It wasn't the GameCube, and it for damn sure wasn't the Nintendo 64.
Oh no.
Nintendo 64 was freaking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Still is.
Yeah. Right. Like I still have mine.
Right. But now we have the Switch. Yeah. And the Switch is interesting because it's gimmicky still, but it actually goes back to having console level graphics. The Wii U and the Wii were less graphics than the PS3 and the Xbox 360 at the time. Mm-hmm. And the Switch is still not on the level of the Xbox One or the PS4, but it's giving us 360 graphics.
Yep.
In a version that is handheld. And if I'm not mistaken, when you put it on the docking station, it actually gives you a little bit better of a...
Yeah, it increases the resolution.
Right, exactly.
Like that. And
so then you're getting kind of like maybe an original Xbox, original PS4.
Yeah, original Xbox One or PS4.
But then with that, you're getting another surge of single-player games. Mm-hmm. I think Banjo-Kazooie was coming back.
Yeah.
We got Spyro coming back.
Yeah! Mario Odyssey, one of the greatest games ever.
So a big help to this is definitely Nintendo coming back, because Nintendo's definitely not one of those... Nintendo's not a really multiplayer focused company in general. They're more of a sit down with friends or single player type game. Like Breath of the Wild is single player and it's an amazing game.
Breath of the Wild is another amazing game.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's another resurgence of single player games. Mm-hmm. A big part of that is going to be Nintendo.
Do you know what I've noticed that's interesting actually?
What's up?
Is notice that none of the main developers, Activision, Electronic Arts, Ubisoft kind of, but Ubisoft's games are also always connected, and they're all the same game anyway. But like every single one of their games is the exact same game. But have you noticed that they're not the ones that are making single-player games anymore? It's actually all exclusives. God of War is basically exclusive. Nier Automata is only on PC and PS4. So it's basically just a PS4 exclusive.
Right.
You've got Mario Odyssey. You've got
you got Ni no Kuni.
Ni no Kuni. You've got
huge game right now.
Right. You've got The Last of Us. I mean, The Last of Us had multiplayer, but you didn't play it.
And then obviously the Nintendo games, they're exclusive to Nintendo.
Exactly. Right. So if you think about it, like all of the exclusives are primarily all still single player game based, and that was actually something that was starting to spark.
Oh my God, The Witcher. The Witcher 3, I didn't even think of The Witcher 3.
The greatest role-playing game of the last, generation.
Won Game of the Year twice.
Yeah, right? It got Game of the Year, and then its DLC got Game of the Year. It beat all the other actual games. So yeah, The Witcher 3, another huge example of a great single-player game. And then, again, Doom and, those ones. But here's something that actually, while you were talking, made me think of something. Have you thought about how, let's say that you have a kid, right?
Right.
Are you going to crack out an old Xbox One or an old PS4 or an old Switch and be like, son or daughter, play Call of Duty World War II, because that defined my childhood or young adulthood? Or are you going to be like, hey, listen, play some classic GoldenEye on Nintendo 64?
So this is what I'm going to do for my kid, right? So when I've always been a gamer. I didn't really get into video games like that until Xbox, the original Xbox.
Yeah.
My first game on the original Xbox, and I adore this game to this day, was Prince of Persia: Sands of Time.
Oh yeah.
The first game I had.
Yeah.
And amazing storyline game.
Mm-hmm.
But I started playing games on the Sega Genesis. Sega Genesis was the first console I picked up.
Yes. Yes.
I remember to this day, I was at my cousin's house and they were playing Mortal Kombat, and I wanted to play, and they were playing on the Sega Genesis. That was my first console. And then from there, the console next was, for me, the Nintendo 64. And I spent a lot of time on the Nintendo 64. Then from there was the PlayStation. So I'm saying all this to say, whatever game consoles we have by the time my kids are around, obviously, I'm going to want them to play video games. I'm going to want them to be into that. Obviously, if they want to be in them, but I'm never going to discourage it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to start them off on what I grew up on. Because they're not going to know the difference between good graphics and bad graphics at the time.
At that point. Yeah,
and
of course not.
Even still to this day, the Nintendo 64 graphics still hold up. I played Mario 64 the other day, and I was like, this still looks good.
It looks great.
I mean, there's certain
charm.
Yeah, there's certain aspects where it was like, oh yeah, this is blocky as crap. But for the most part, it looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna start my kid off on a 64.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. And probably the same. And the reason I was thinking about that is there are very few games that really leave
a lasting impression.
Yeah.
Impact,
in today's day and age, every single game, I'm not gonna have my kid play Destiny. I mean, no one is going to remember Destiny people want them to. No one's gonna remember any of the slew of Call of Duty games except for maybe Black Ops 1 and maybe, Modern Warfare 1. Maybe even those. And those are even still.
There's going to be specific Call of Duty games that are going to last the test of time.
Yeah.
Modern Warfare is going to be one of them, especially because they just remastered it.
Mm-hmm.
But Modern Warfare and Black Ops 2 are the perfect Call of Duty games.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll even I'll throw in Modern Warfare 1 and Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah.
There's 3 Call of Duty games that everybody loves and still loves.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but no one's gonna play Ghosts in 20 years. No one's gonna play any of those. I'm sure as hell gonna have someone play The Last of Us in another 5 to 10 years. All the classic God of War games, absolutely. Maybe even some of the old GTAs.
Definitely.
GTA 5, totally. Go back and play that.
GTA 4 was great.
GTA 4 was great. GTA 3, the first game that really brought down the ice.
Yeah, when it wasn't top down anymore.
Yes, exactly. The classic third person view.
Vice City was amazing. San Andreas was amazing.
Right? Halo 1.
I don't think GTA has made a bad game.
No, it takes them forever to do it. Oh, and that's another thing also. Rockstar is also now bringing out Red Dead Redemption 2.
Which I've never actually played Red Dead Redemption 1.
Oh my, he's in your...
But see, see, here's the thing. I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, I never played it and they're not good. Like, I know they're good.
Yeah.
I just never got around to playing them because, again, at the time when those games were big, I was playing a lot of Call of Duty.
I'm turning him into a single player.
Yeah, I've actually been playing quite a few single player games right now. Other than, and it's funny, like, I couldn't stop playing Final Fantasy 14, which is the MMO version of Final Fantasy. And I've been stopping playing that to play Nier Automata.
And so, actually, yeah, tell me what you think, now that we're on that, what do you think about Nier Automata? Because this is a game that I want to pitch to Kenobi. The cat is, like, slowly pushing things off of the table.
So, Nier Automata is a really good game. It's really good. I can't think of anything bad about it. It's very challenging. It's a hard game, even on normal, which is what I'm playing it on. And I'm going to play it on a harder difficulty, and it's going to be even worse. But it's hard. It's challenging. The story so far is very interesting, and it keeps you guessing. But it's very engaging, and you care about the characters. It has the kind of combat or feel to it that a game like Assassin's Creed, for instance. Assassin's Creed has a very fluid and good combat system. It has that. Or think of, oh my god, I didn't think about these for single player games. The Arkham games. Batman Arkham City, Batman Arkham Asylum, amazing single player games. But it has that kind of feel. Like, they took the fighting style from Assassin's Creed and implemented it into those games. Nier Automata kind of has that same thing.
You connected a lot to Ninja Gaiden also.
Yeah, it also, to me, because I played a lot of Ninja Gaiden, it feels just like that. But just because of the type of weapons you're using. But it also has this charm to it. Not only because of the story and the quirkiness that's in the game, because the game does have its quirks and like funny things, but it's not oversaturated and like overdone. Yeah. But one of the things that I think is really cool about it is kind of like the same reason that Deadpool has such a charm. They kind of play on the fact that you're playing a game, and they break they break the fourth wall sometimes. Not straight out breaking the fourth wall, but in the dialogue that they use, they make you think about the fourth wall. Like, for instance, one of the things is saying, like, you can talk to this person and be like, the game is too hard, and like that's one of your dialogue choices. And when you say that, they respond with, I don't know why you think life is a game.
Yeah,
but,
basically.
you know, like, and that right there in itself is so meaningful. Like, what is the meaning of life? It could take you on all these other things, but and if you look at it simply as the game, they're like, well, this is, to us, this is real life. Why are you saying that life is too hard? Like, it's just very interesting in that fact.
He has no idea what's coming.
Yeah, I'm not finished yet. I heard it's like even worse, but just based on that, I can just imagine like what it makes. Because there's a lot of other little things that have happened so far that just already made me think. I'm actually completely afraid to finish the game because I've already touched on things. I'm like, this is. To be completely honest, there's things that are happening in the main storyline that I don't even agree with. And I'm like, this game is just gonna break my heart. But I think it's a really good game.
I want to make another video now of when you complete it and coming back to this and what you think of it. Yeah. Because that is a video segment in and of itself.
Right.
Oh man, it'd be so good. But yeah, like, I feel like when you have a single player game, and maybe this is just some bias towards me, but when you have a single player game, I feel like you have the ability to tell something that feels more like art. I feel like single-player games have a lot more of an artistic feel to them than multiplayer games do. And I think that, of course, the main reason why is because you're crafting an experience that is generally linear, unless you're a Ubisoft game, that like guides the player down a path to be emotionally invested in whatever it is that you want to do. Multiplayer games are fantastic at pulling out the competitive nature of us and everything. Right. But there's something about the way that single-player games manage to engage you that is just really special. Right? And it doesn't even necessarily have to be the story. I'm a huge nut for storytelling, absolutely. But Doom is a perfect example of a game that, like, it only works as a single-player game. Right. Like, Doom's multiplayer doesn't really leave, like, a long-lasting impression while it is still good. But when you start playing Doom's single-player, and you've got the music blasting at like full volume and everything,
it gets you into it.
You are so into it. And this is actually something that I realized that was brilliant. That also could be an entire video in and of itself. And maybe I'll make one as like a monologue. But the music of the game drives the actions of what you're doing.
Yep.
And
Nier does it too.
Yeah. And so when you start fighting to the beat of the song in Doom, you realize that you're basically just like this unstoppable killing machine
Yep.
that just goes nuts. And it works. It just works. Everything works so well. And those are things that you can't really put into a multiplayer game. You know, you'd be so distracted if you're playing a Call of Duty or even Overwatch and the theme to Overwatch is blaring in the background while you're trying to focus on like the multiplayer.
I mean, to be
combat.
completely honest, when I'm playing those type of games, I turn the music down or off completely.
Yeah.
I think my music in Overwatch is not off, but it's like really low.
Mhm.
I know in PUBG the music, I turn the music down, like, cause I don't need that. I don't care about it. Like it doesn't, the music doesn't tempo up or down when you're getting into engagements or anything, because like one, that's just something that's added onto the game that they don't need when they can put their focus in other places. So like it's not needed. You don't need to set the tempo for multiplayer games because the tempo is set on engagements.
Yeah, exactly. And they want you to focus on like, what's going on in front of you. With single player games, I feel like it's just such a blend, a perfect blend of like when every single part of a development studio has to come together.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is very important. And
because like think about it like this, right? Like you have to have your music team make an engaging soundtrack. Halo had a phenomenal soundtrack. Doom has a great soundtrack. Nier, Witcher, all those games make phenomenal soundtracks.
Yeah, they sound great.
Then you also have to have your regular sound design team, right? That has to make it sound more engaging. A game like The Witcher, where like you could just be sitting in a field and you'll just hear the wind and the tree branches cracking,
rain
and
falling,
like,
bugs flying by, stuff like that.
everything. And then in Doom, it's so bombastic and explosive with everything.
Everything
just,
is in your face.
And then you've got the level design. The level design has to be so much different in single player games than multiplayer games because, you know, in multiplayer games, you just kind of have to make it like a one funnel pathway or, like
or
a
whatever.
few, like maybe like 2 or 3 ways. Like
lane
Overwatch breaks it down. Every map in Overwatch is broken into 3 lanes.
In 3 lanes. Yeah, it's the classic MOBA style. And it leads for quick and easy engagements. You know what the lanes are. Also, you got to take into consideration or keep in mind that nowadays a lot of games are being made around esports and competitive. That is one of the biggest things coming to gaming, or not coming to gaming because it's been there for a while, but most people don't know about it and they're starting to now. So because of that, a lot of these games like Overwatch and stuff like that are being made with competitive in mind, so they're being simplified to 3 lanes. Like,
they have a formula to follow.
Yeah, it's a formula that you follow because it works the best for competitive.
Because now it's a sport.
Exactly.
And so, like, when you've got a single player game, your level design has to be engaging and entertaining. Like, every single level in Doom, I think, is just fantastic in terms of its craftsmanship because of the platforming that you've got in the game.
Like, that's very interesting because Doom and Nier do something that I find is very interesting, and they change between the type of game that you're playing seamlessly. Like you'll be running down a hallway and you got the regular full-on 3D view, and then you turn a corner and it turns into a side scroller, and literally all you can see is a zoomed out version of where you are and what's in front of you and behind you and above you and below you, like a classic platformer. And you got to play through that, and as soon as you turn another corner, then it turns into like a top-down view. Or another thing that they do is like you get into a mech that you're flying around in, and it makes you feel like you're playing Galaga.
Yeah, you're playing a bullet hell shooter.
Right.
Like,
it's interesting, and Doom does the same thing, but not in the sense of like where it simply changes your view, but it makes you do things that you wouldn't normally do in a 3D game, like jumping from place to place like a platformer.
Yeah, you really
it's very interesting.
Yeah, you have to think about enemies that might be up on the ceiling or jumping down from
things
below
you don't get in
generally
in
multiplayer
multiplayer game. You're not going to get that.
Everything has to be like flat and on the ground, unless you're Fana. But and Mercy. But
which is why those characters in that instance, they are really hard to deal with, because nowadays people aren't used to having to look up in the sky for things because they're playing out here and right in front of them. So like characters like Farah and Mercy are hard to hit or annoying because you now got to and I'll say for myself, it is hard to shoot Farah in the freaking sky, and it shouldn't be. I'm shooting at her and sometimes I just can't hit her. It shouldn't be that hard, but it is.
It should not be hard when you're playing Widowmaker to shoot a Farah out of the sky. It shouldn't. Maybe I'm just a terrible Widowmaker. Probably.
I mean, that's neither here nor there. I'm not gonna comment on that.
But yeah, I mean, I'm like, she should be super easy to hit. She moves super slow, and it's just kind of like bouncing around in the air. But yeah, like those multiplayer games don't often bring verticality to the mix. They're generally very flat and on the ground. And I mean, like, even Rocket League. I mean, yeah, Rocket League has a lot of flying, high flying and stuff. That might be the most verticality that you get in a multiplayer game. And, like, so, I mean, like, yeah, so, like, level design, another huge thing. Story, of course, is going to be huge, because that's going to drive everything that the player is doing. So you've got every single part of a development studio working to craft something that's going to be long-lasting and memorable, and I think that's why some of these games stand the test of time. This new God of War game is gonna stick around.
I haven't played it, but
I haven't played it either. I don't even know how good it is, but, like, apparently it's basically the game of the year.
Right, like so... But it's things like that that's bringing back single player games, because if you think about the time when single player was huge, it was God of War, it was Halo, it was Mario, whether it was Mario 64 or Mario Sunshine. It was these games that people were playing. Now that these games are back, not only are you going to see the resurgence of us 90s kids, like, oh my god, these are like the games that I've been waiting for, but you're going to have these newer generation kids who don't know about this, and they play a game like God of War and like, holy crap, this is great, or Mario Odyssey. So it definitely helps that these developers that make these games specifically are doing it again, because they've been gone for years. The last God of War we had was 2007, 2008?
No.
It was when I was a freshman.
No, not that late. We also had God of War. God of War 3 was like 2009 or 10, but...
Was it? Because
Then we had God of War Ascension.
I don't even know what the hell it is.
It's the God of War game that nobody remembers. But
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, God of War Ascension, I think, came out in like 2012 or something.
Yeah, but
no one
remembers it.
Nobody remembers it.
I don't. That's right now. It's the first time me hearing about that. So.
Yeah. Here's another one: Gears of War.
Yeah, but see, Gears of War switched.
That's true.
It became very multiplayer oriented. I remember playing the original Gears of War, the first one. The story was great. The story for Gears of War has always been great, but the multiplayer was also great. When you were not playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare, you were playing Gears of War. Mm-hmm. Like, I still actively remember that. And
fucking rodeo shotgun.
Yep. Or freaking getting one-shotted with the sniper and getting that active reload and all that. Like, I remember that to this day.
Torpo.
Dude, but now they focus a lot on the competitive scene.
That's true.
The Gears of War competitive scene is on the rise. Mm-hmm. So
that is true. Anyway, have anything else to add about this? Kind of an abrupt cutoff point, I know.
No, but I mean, I think that single player games are definitely coming back. That's for sure. Multiplayer games are going nowhere, especially with VR becoming a thing. But you also, with the competitive scene, there's no way that it's going anywhere. Call of Duty's competitive scene is growing. CS:GO is thriving. Then obviously you got League, you got Dota, and Overwatch, which are all like doing great. So multiplayer games are going nowhere, and for the majority of the time, people are going to really be playing multiplayer games. But these single player games are coming back, and they're going to cause people to sit down and play them.
Yeah.
And also, they have a specific audience that they're reaching, a specific audience to touch, because there's some people who want to come home and just play a game, but they don't want to play something multiplayer. They want to play something story-oriented, or they want to play something where I can pause the game and go take care of my kid real quick, or go walk the dog, go wash the dishes and come back and play. Can't do that with a multiplayer game. Exactly. Like, that's simple right there. You can pause a single-player game. What does pausing even mean? Does anybody know what that means anymore?
I don't even know. Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think that definitely right now it's a resurgence of it, and it's like we talked about last time. Everything comes full circle. Mm-hmm. Single player games are back,
and hopefully they're here to stay.
I hope so. I mean, I'm getting back into them. I haven't played a single player game in forever, and I played The Witcher 3, Nier now. Like, got Doom.
Yeah, I've given him so many single player games to play. I've thrown so many at him. I bought him Nier, and I'm so happy that he's loving it.
Yeah, it's great.
We'll have to get your opinion on what you think about it when you're done that
definitely,
game.
for sure.
But I think that this is probably a good stopping point. Your little battery ticker there is going off, so
I got extra batteries.
Got extra batteries? All right, fantastic. Well, it was kind of like, maybe I should beat that clock before we don't have enough time. But so tell us what you guys thought about this video. What do you guys think about single player games? What's your favorite one? Comment down in the box below.
What was your single player game or game that you played growing up? As always, this is a conversation. We want to hear what you guys have to say. If there's anything else you want to have us talk about in these Raid Party episodes, please let us know. We have a couple ideas in our head of what we're going to do, but obviously we want recommendations and hear from you guys. But as always, I'm Byronic.
Now I'm Marshall, and this has been DigiTrip. You have a good one, guys.